Okay, looks like we're live.
All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our second time round for Dry Eye Foundation Live. It's Rebecca and Aidan at the Dry Eye Foundation in Paulsbo, Washington, and looking forward to having some fun with this today. We have lots and lots to go over. Aidan, could you run through our kind of upcoming Zoom group schedules for starters?
Yep. So you can always go to our website for our Zoom groups. Next week, we have 4 meetings. Oh, you know what? Excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong week. Next week, we have 3 meetings. On Monday, Mandy's hosting the mental health support group for dry eye. That's at 10 a.m. Pacific. I have a support group for millennials and young people's dry eye on Tuesday, the 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then Rebecca's doing her weekly scleral lens group next Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. I kind of skipped our general dry eye support group meeting today at 3 p.m. Pacific. So you can join for any of those that seem relevant.
The scleral lens one on Thursdays has kind of turned into a one-on-one, which I just love because bigger groups are a little bit harder for me. But just if anybody's thinking this is like they're nervous because there may be a lot of people, don't even imagine. They're really quite small groups. So come join us sometime. All right. Next thing I want to run through is some updates on the Dry Eye Zone website, which has kind of been languishing since COVID. So it went through and did some cleanup and refreshing some of the content recently. And would you be able to bring that up?
Yep, I've got it here. Mm-hmm. Can you see that? Dry Zone.
Yep. Great.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So if you would go over to the dry eye drop menu, I mean, we have a few new things on the home page, but it's mostly that dry eye drop or eye drop info tab on there. So at the top of that, we've got our OTC ingredient guide. That's something we've had for a long time. We always get pretty good feedback on this when you're trying to hunt down drops that are either very similar to something you're currently using, but maybe in a different packaging or something or a different brand, or trying to find something that does not have the ingredients of something you're currently using. You can do a page search on any ingredient. We also do things like highlighting preservatives on the ones that are preserved or any kind of interesting ingredients on there. Second tab under that menu is a list of FDA approved dry eye drugs. We've always had a partial list of things on there. Used to have some devices as well. I'm finding we want to focus on this a little bit more this year because there seem to be a lot more blurred lines out there right now. What is and isn't approved. So we're trying to pull together everything that's current on there with click-throughs to the actual approval or the labeling documentation so that there's a reference so you kind of know. Let's see, then next tab is the drug pipeline, which I've just updated. The pipeline, I would say, seems to have shrunk a bit, and some of that was kind of expected with the COVID time, but there are lots of really interesting things there still. The ones that seem to be closest or are in phase 3 trials, there's just 4 on our list right now. If you know of anything that's missing, please let us know. But what I'm finding interesting is they're not all for dry eye at this point. There are things in development for MGD or evaporative dry eye. There's one for Demodex blepharitis as well on the way. Then down below that, there's a bunch more that are kind of in other stages of development, phase 2 trials, maybe 1 or 2 earlier than that. And we have kind of a graveyard list at the bottom. It's things that just sort of went quiet. We don't always know, was this project killed or is it kind of in between announcements? The one that I kind of regret on there is Lubricant. We had pretty high hopes of that. That was something that Novartis bought for an obscene amount of money some years back, but apparently it didn't turn out, which is a bummer. But there are other new things coming, which is always good. Okay, the next item in the dry drop menu is a presentation that Sandra Brown, who's on our board, she's an ophthalmologist in North Carolina, put together for us. We really encourage you to have a look through this. It's about a 10-minute video, basically a PowerPoint presentation with a voiceover. I think since so much of our lives in the ocular surface disease space, both for people with dry eye unrelated and scleral lens users, it's dominated by preservative-free products. I think this is just a really good thought-provoking presentation on safety of preservative-free things. We like to diss preservatives because of ocular toxicity. On the other hand, preservatives are there to help address contamination in bottles. And we just have to be mindful when there isn't a preservative, what that means and how to ensure we're using things that are safe and that we're using them safely. So would, like I said, recommend having a look at that video. Then let's see, is it the last one on there? Is it just a reference guide about eye drops, both OTC and prescription, that have the BAC preservative in them. And this isn't like a hit list. I mean, BAC is not the enemy per se. There's a very good reason, like I said, for preservatives in some situations, especially. The problem with BAC is when you're using something every day, we know that BAC causes harm. We know that it causes and exacerbates dry eye. So when there's a frequent use issue going on, that's a problem. The other situation is just, of course, if you're allergic and knowing that that's a possibility. So the purpose of that page is really just to prompt more conversations with your eye doctor. If you are using eye drops that are preserved with BAC, have a conversation, find out, is there an acceptable alternative? And also just increasing awareness of BAC in OTC drops. I mean, I think we all know the difference between preservative-free and preserved dry eye drops in the drugstore or online. But then there's other things like allergy drops. Or get the red out drops, which hopefully you're not using, but some have to. So just be aware that BAC is an issue in those. All right, other things that are coming soon on there, we don't have up right now, but we're working on are, we're putting together a guide of some current clinical trials in the dry eye space, just to highlight ones for major things going on or things where we just really want to encourage people to consider participating in a clinical trial. It's a way to be part of the process of bringing new things to market that may help us. Yeah, just some things to read through there. We're also creating a separate site with some reference information about biologic eye drops, which are becoming more and more popular. So that should be live probably before the end of the month. All right. Next, we're going to do a little journal roundup, just some of the most recently published studies. I used to blog a lot. I don't know, Aiden, if you can go to the blog thing. There it is. Yeah. I mean, for many, many, many years, I stopped around the time COVID started. I really miss it. You should just go through all the news. What are the latest and greatest, just exciting medical studies that have been published or new products coming out. And so this live stream time is going to be my time to catch up now in lieu of writing about them. So first one today is, let's see, did you know we finally have generic Restasis out there on the market? I haven't heard of anybody that has gotten it or used it yet, but if price is what's keeping you away from Restasis, I would encourage you to check this out. Let's see, Aiden, I've got the NDC number if you can post that in the chat.
Okay, yeah.
But you should be able to just ask a pharmacist about it. Certainly talk to your doctor about it to see. I mean, if you're currently on Restasis or wanting to be on it but can't afford it, have a conversation and see whether this is an option for you. It's been a long wait. I mean, it's 20 years since Restasis was approved, and we now have a generic. So I'm pretty excited about that one. I just think it will make it more accessible to more people. All right, next up, just going to run through a few studies that I saw in my news feed this past week. There was an interesting one about antidepressants and dry eye. It was a collaboration between the ophthalmology and the psychologist, I forget now, psych department of a hospital in central Turkey. They studied 165 patients on antidepressants and 101 controls. And maybe you can post it. Well, no, it's in the title right there. As the title of it says, they found that people using the serotonin noradrenaline reuptake inhibitors, that particular class of drugs, had lower OSD scores. That means, simple terms, their eyes felt better. And could you maybe dig up an OSD link to post
Sure.
as well? Sorry, I didn't have that on the list. And some examples of those were Effexor and Cymbalta. Cymbalta, I think some people use for neuropathic corneal pain as well. Anyway, I thought that the article was just worth a read. People, it's a common question in groups and things, and so many things in our dry eye world, including the antidepressant side, are a matter of trying things and figuring out what works. But if we can narrow things down based on studies and surveys and things, that can help too. Let's see. Then we've got there was a Sjogren's study. In this one, the notes I wrote to myself were the way that they kind of validated the things that affect our lives in some of these disease groups are not disease and the technicalities of it. It's the symptoms that impact our day-to-day lives, right? And in the Sjogren space, they have these really cool tools. I remember coming across those much earlier at one of the Sjogren's conferences, where you've got a tool to assess the disease side, but you've also got a tool, a questionnaire type thing to assess what's the symptom impact side. And those are the sorts of things we've been trying to draw more attention to in the dry eye space specifically. And again, that OSD survey is a big part of that. Ways that we can take our lived experience, and it may be oversimplifying, but basically reduce that to a number that helps to express what we're experiencing and communicate that to the medical world and also to the industry to explain what we need and sometimes what we're not getting. All right, then there was another study I saw, systematic review about association between asthma and dry eye. They say it's the first one of its type, so I thought that was just interesting to flag. Then we've got one about the reliability of the Schirmer test in open versus closed eyes. And their conclusion was in open eyes, the scores were a little bit higher, but not much, so not a huge difference. Then there was a study about cataract surgery and dry eye, which I know is a really popular topic right now. A lot of people are asking and are concerned about the timing of their cataract surgery and just worried about worsening of dry eye afterwards, or figuring out with their doctor how to step up their treatment beforehand. Anyway, so this study was a systematic review. They kind of combined 36 studies and aggregated things and looked at kind of how long dry eye was lasting. And in the studies, kind of, it was all over the place from kind of 1 to 12 months, and in some cases more. But they also listed risk factors for dry eye disease after cataract surgery. And many of these, of course, are the ones that we know with or without cataract surgery are true, but I thought they were interesting anyway. They listed age, female sex, systemic diseases, systemic medications, which sometimes still get overlooked as a dry eye contributor, psychiatric conditions, pre-existing dry eye, of course, meibomian gland dysfunction, preservatives in eye drops, as we were talking about before, surgery techniques, and lifestyle as well. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting one. All right, that's all I saw in the study news feed this week. Going to turn now just briefly to our survey, which I've been talking about for a while. This was the big survey that we ran from kind of late 2019 to early 2021. The full results in just kind of simple data and automated charts are available on our website at mydryeyedata.org. Yeah, if you could just show like the different menus on there, Aidan, that would be great. Yeah, these are all the different categories of things that we surveyed people about. Today, I just wanted to show one very simple data point that to me has profound significance in our community, and that is measuring how much people think about their eyes. I find it just an interesting gauge of where someone's at. I think most of you probably know that whole difference between when your eyes are dominating your every thought and when you come out in a better place at some point and you look in the rearview mirror and you can remember when it was like that, but when it's no longer like that, when your problem is still there, but it's manageable. It's background noise. It's something you deal with, but you're not thinking about it incessantly. I was thinking about this week, reading some notes from an email from someone that I'm going to be speaking with later today. And he was kind of highlighting this issue about how your eyes can dominate your thoughts. And he said, you sense them all day. You're blinking constantly. You use them every second that you're awake. It's just that awareness thing. And I can't actually see that on my screen.
Yeah.
Could you read through just the answers in the
Sure. Yeah. I'll share a portion from our PDF version of the survey. So I'll read through those. Hopefully that's a little bit easier to read. So here's how much I think about my eyes or am aware of them. Choose one: all of the time. I'm obsessed with my dry eye, or it's in so much pain I can't think about anything else. Most of the time, can't help it. I'm in a really hard place and nothing's helping. Half of the time, there's plenty of time when I'm not thinking about it, but then there's the rest of the time. Some of the time, a lot less than I used to. I still have to do a lot to take care of my eyes, but I have my life back now. And none of the time. That's not quite true, but I think about them and it's more like background noise.
So those are the places that we want to be. The some of the time or the none of the time. The I have my life back, crisis over, background noise. That's the place to aim for. Can you run us through the numbers of?
Yeah, let me get back to the.
So this was the 480 people that participated in the survey.
Right. And if 480, I'm going to go here. I know I'm looking at the stream and you can't read the screen, unfortunately. Whatever I tried didn't work to get an HD stream set up. But so for the some of the time or none of the time, we're really only at what?
I see it. Yeah.
Like 18%.
Across the two. Yeah.
Across the two. Yeah. I mean,
so less than 20% of participants are in that better place. That is a number we need to change. I want to see that number going up. Okay, what are the rest of them?
Sure, half the time is 31%, most of the time is 35%, and all of the time is 15%. So 73 people. So that they're thinking about their eyes all the time.
Yeah, that gives us a goal to aim for. Like I said, I just think that's a really crucial measure of where someone's at. What's the sum total of life impact? So that's all we're going to look at in the survey today. We're going to start from next week, going through the symptom and quality of life parts of the survey. And like I said, all the data is out there. So anything you want to drill into, I think you would find it really interesting. All right. Yeah, you can go ahead and turn off the screen share thing. All right, now just a couple other things. I have mentioned that we're going to be just tackling some issues and talking about issues affecting our community. An issue that we are engaging with increasingly this year is dry eye profiteering. What I mean by that is we know we're pretty vulnerable patient community because we have such high life impact from this disease that we can get pretty desperate looking for relief. We've got that on the one hand. On the other hand, we know the dry eye market is enormous. That's proven itself over basically ever since Restasis came out, and the sales numbers in dry eye drugs and devices are eye-popping. We are notorious for, or maybe not quite the word, but for our willingness to shell out money out of pocket for anything that will bring us relief, medical or otherwise. That makes us targets. And I want us to start addressing this year some of the issues that are coming up, some of the unscrupulous things that are being done out there to make money off us as a community without offering us things of value. Just because we need symptom relief, pain relief, need our eyes to get better, does not mean we need to succor to unscrupulous companies, to unscrupulous marketing tactics. We want to go about our treatment choices thoughtfully. So we're going to have a lot to say about that this year at a number of levels. We're going to be looking at kind of what is snake oil, what is unethical marketing. When we come across it, what do we do? Even when we know something is wrong, do we just walk away? What about steps we can take? What about reporting some of these things to the FTC? If we come across things that aren't working, or we experience some kind of bad outcome from something, an adverse event, what about reporting things that happen to the FDA? There are channels through which we can report experiences that we have with things that are not going well for us. And that feedback loop is important. It's important for us to be part of that. So one of the things that prompted this thought, especially today, was I was going through my newsfeed this morning, and there was a thing in there yet again about an eye mask. And I'm not going to say anything about the product or about the company, but I want to just discuss some information that was on their site about ostensibly a study that was done in relation to this. And would you mind, could you bring up that?
Sure. You want me to screen share or share the link?
Yeah. And just scroll down to show that study information.
Yeah, it's right here. It's probably not going to be super legible, but.
Right. Okay. So just the dry eye mask produces constant, consistent heat to alleviate dry eye symptoms. Great. I love that idea. A 2021 study trial of 1,000 patients' outcome was as follows. Okay, now all of a sudden I have red flags all over the place. Because first of all, nobody studies 1,000 patients. You know how expensive it is to do these studies. When I see studies of any kind of heat device for the eyes, we're looking at like 35 patients, or I mean, certainly less than 100. So 1,000 patients was a red flag for me. Then I don't see what this was. Where was this? Who did this? Normally, they're going to say who the doctor was, where this was done. Was it at a university? Was there at a particular clinic? So that's a concern. Then 99.6% of patients reported a significant amount of dry eye relief. Whoa. Okay. Really got an issue with that, because while I wouldn't want to rule out anything, I've been making the rounds of the dry eye world for almost 20 years now, and I've never come across anything where anywhere near 90% or anywhere remotely near there, let alone 99.6% of people experienced a similar type of benefit. If there is one thing we know about the dry eye world, it is that we are all different. Things that work for you do not work for me. Things that work for me do not work for you. We know the numbers just can't be that high. Then here's what was a huge concern to me, and something I would just like to identify as a red flag on anything you come across. 37.1% of patients have discontinued the use of prescription eye drops at 30 days. 85.7% of patients have discontinued the use of prescription drops at 90 days. Okay, those sound like terrific things to aim for. Love to not be using any prescription eye drops. Absolutely. There's the cost factor, there's the potential side effects, all those things. Great thing to aim for. But to claim that a home remedy, a non-regulated non-regulated medical device of any kind is going to replace your prescription drugs, I find that incredibly inappropriate. It is only between you and your doctor the discussion of whether you need or do not need a prescription drug. When someone is marketing something and they even obliquely suggest this is a replacement for prescription medication, the alarm bells should go off. So again, not saying anything about the product or the company, but these are types of red flags that you want to be looking out for, and talk to your eye doctor about them. Most of all, if not most of all, but also when you see a claim that you're concerned about, don't just stop there. Reach out to the company and say so, or ask questions. This particular site, they've got a contact us page. You can contact them and say, hey, could you tell me more about that study? What doctor did it? Can you put me in touch with someone for more information? Ask for more information. Call them out if there's things that you're concerned about in claims that they're making. All right, enough on that theme. Let's see. On the positive side, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Judy and Doreen and Elaine down in Orange County, who have run the Orange County Dry Eye Support Group for 17 years now. I learned the other day that they are wrapping up now, and that's not going to continue, but I've known them for an awfully long time. I've attended some of their groups in the past. They just did fantastic work. I've never known a local group like them. They put a ton of work into it. They were my go-to resource for forever on somebody down in Southern California in general was needing to find a new local doctor or something. They just knew so much. So very, very well done. Let's see. And are there any questions out there?
No, nothing's come up, but feel free to type in the chat.
So it looks like we're just about out of time. If any questions come up, we'll get to those. Just want to run over for next week. Aiden and I are going to talk about the Dry Eye Helpline, where we're at with that, what we're doing, how we can help you or help someone that you see struggling, or also how you can help us with it. Then run over kind of a journal roundup and industry news again. Gonna talk about biologic eye drops, and then our new clinical trials guide on the site we should have live then, plus lots of other things that I haven't thought of yet. But that's all I got for today. Aiden, anything I'm missing or you can think of?
I think that covers it. We'll see some of you on Zoom later today for our support group at 3.
All right.
Right.
See everybody later.
Take care. And we'll have a wrap up of this on our website too. You're blogging about this, and yeah, we'll post some